Okay, it is time to get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Kara Moncrief, and I'm the Clinical Communications Director for Sinclair. And then we also have Aaliyah Brockbank, Clinical Communications Manager, joining me. So another duo webinar, which is always a lot of fun for us. And less work for me because we work on the PowerPoint and the studying together, and it just makes it a lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint and we will get started. I'll be speaking first and then Aaliyah will come on, and we're kind of bouncing back and forth, but I'm taking on the first few slides. So let me share my screen with all of you. Okay. So today's webinar, it's something that we talk a lot about, especially as clinical trainers when we are training accounts, and something that's really important is extrinsic and intrinsic aging. So I'll go down, let me see if my computer stopped working. So I've been having to use a mouse, but okay, it's working okay. So first is just going to be explaining the difference between intrinsic aging and extrinsic aging. And I really want you guys to think of the focus of this webinar as more so being on extrinsic aging, because there's not a lot we can do about intrinsic aging. Reason being, actually, if you kind of look at the definition there, intrinsic aging is the natural biological process of aging that we all will experience. So it's not something that we can stop or, fix with really anything. It's just going to happen, right? We can, of course, make everybody look better with energy-based technologies like Sinclair technologies or neurotoxins and all the other things that you do in your office. However, we're all going to age internally, beginning in our 20s and continuing for the remainder of our lives. So scary. Intrinsic aging gradually reduces our skin's ability to stay elastic and to repair itself. Of course, we know that, if the older we get, the more risky surgeries are. The older we get, if we, cut our hand, it usually takes longer to heal, those kind of things. So that's just something we can't avoid. We can make people look better though. However, that is something that that we will be talking about in the webinar. But the big thing is, in your consultations, are you talking to your patients about, I always call it their homework, that they should be doing their own homework. What I mean by that is they may be coming in and, spending a lot of money with you, but what are they doing outside of seeing you? How are they living their life? And it really matters. It is a big, big thing. If they follow just a few certain steps, which is sometimes hard to get people to change, it's going to make a huge difference in how they look and then how they age going forward. I have a fan, so I sometimes get a Beyonce effect. It's like 117 degrees here in Vegas, so I have to have this or I'll die. But let's look at the definition. Extrinsic aging describes the acceleration of aging due to our environment and lifestyle, which causes premature aging symptoms. And that's what we don't want, right? We don't want them to have premature aging symptoms when they come in and see us in their 30s and they're saying, hey, what can we start doing to help the aging process? It's the best time to talk to them about these things in a consultation, not just the technologies, but also their lifestyle. And again, that's why the lifestyle intake form is so important. If you don't have one, you should. It's just as important as a consent form. Knowing how much water do they drink? Do they drink coffee? Do they drink alcohol? Do they smoke? Do they sun worship? Do they not wear sunscreen? All these things are super important to know, because it also helps you with what kind of result can you really promise the patient, right? There are going to be a lot of factors there. So hopefully this will really help you in your consultative process. Okay. Now I will pin Aaliyah, and she will start with intrinsic aging and really just the things that we should expect with just a normal aging process.
Hello. All righty. All right, we're going to jump right into intrinsic aging. So we'll talk about first the things that happen with intrinsic aging, and we'll really dive in deep on all of them. So we can skip to the next slide. Thank you. So like Kara said, of course, this is all happening naturally. It's not something that we can stop. But again, we can slow things down a bit by avoiding all the external factors, which we'll dive into as well. So with intrinsic aging, what's happening? Hormonal changes, reduction of glycosaminoglycans or GAGs, a little bit easier, in the extracellular matrix or the ECM. Our melanocytes, they decrease in volume, but also increase in size, amongst other things. Collagen and elastin changes, vascular changes, our cellular life cycle changes, of course, and then genetics does play a bit of a part as well. The results of all of this, it is thinning of the epidermis and dermis, loss of elasticity, wrinkling of the skin, and sagging of facial tissue. So I believe the first one we'll talk about next is hormonal changes. And if you have seen our VVR webinars, or if you've been part of the training, which the VVR is our women's health handpiece. So if you know all about that, you know how important estrogen is to women's health in general and vaginal health. But it also, estrogen really affects our skin as well. So estrogen is primarily produced in our ovaries, but we also do have a little bit of estrogen in our fat cells and in our adrenal glands as well. But of course, once menopause hits, our estrogen depletes a ton. So this is really where we start to see changes in our skin. So estrogen helps to restore and retain moisture retention through promotion of sebum secretion by increasing production of insulin-like growth factors from fibroblast cells, which induces lipogenesis, which is metabolic fat formation, and sebocytes, which are epithelial cells that produce sebum, and leads to moisture retention. So this is something, that occurs already, and then the estrogen depletion really kind of kicks it up a notch. And really with all of these points that I'm making, it's kind of already happening, with chronological aging, and then the estrogen depletes, and it's really prevalent. Estrogen also protects skin cells against oxidative damage. So Kara will be talking a lot about this specific topic in extrinsic aging, but oxidative damage is basically damage to the cells from external factors. So the dramatic decrease of estrogen levels during menopause could leave the skin more susceptible to that oxidative damage. Let me just see if I can scoot myself over here really quick. Sorry. Estrogen also supports collagen through its receptors. So there are receptors throughout our entire body, but there are more estrogen receptors in facial tissue than the skin of many other parts of the body. So it's really no wonder that, once women go through menopause, or they're going through menopause, we see a huge, huge change in our face, wrinkles, sagging, laxity, and more. Estrogen deficiency accelerates the loss of skin elasticity by triggering ultrastructural changes, which are very, very fine changes in cells. And this is happening in elastin fibers, which then leads to wrinkle formation. And it has been found that up to 30% of dermal collagen may be lost in the first 5 years after menopause. So collagen decreases by approximately 2.1% per year, with skin thickness decreasing 1.1% every year. So we're already naturally losing collagen. And again, estrogen just kicks that up a notch, or I should say lack thereof, less estrogen. All righty. I think Kara's next.
Sorry guys, I'm usually quicker at this, but because my computer broke, it's hard to switch back and forth. Okay, after this is all so depressing. So moving on to something else depressing. Hopefully not, but glycosaminoglycans. I don't think we talk about them enough. We talk a lot about collagen. We talk a lot about elastin, but there's really 3 main structures to our skin when it comes to aging. The 3 are collagen, elastin, and glycosaminoglycans. They are incredibly important. Probably the one that you know the best is hyaluronic acid. There's many different types of glycosaminoglycans in our skin, but I think that's the one that most people know. And you may know that hyaluronic acid holds its own weight 1,000 times in its own weight. Sorry, I said that wrong. So it is incredibly moisture binding, and it holds a ton of moisture and water in our skin. So what does that do? I've said this a lot, but it gives our skin turgidity. It gives our skin the bounce back that we need. It gives our skin the plumpness, the fullness that we see. We have a lot of glycosaminoglycans when we're young, and just like collagen, just like elastin, we lose it. So it starts to deplete, and then that starts to create a major complication, not only in giving us our skin the fullness that it needs, but glycosaminoglycans are also really important for collagen. So I know we talk a lot about fibroblast cells, and yes, fibroblast cells are the cells that actually secrete the collagen fibers. But without glycosaminoglycans, the structure surrounding the collagen, we really can't build it. So that's how important they are. And then, sorry, I've kind of skipped these bullet points, so I'll go to those. So glycosaminoglycans, or GAGs, play numerous functions in the ECM, which is the extracellular matrix, to regulate cell proliferation. Reminder of what proliferation is: it's the start of something. So we're always starting and getting the ball rolling on cells, kind of waking up and doing their job. So it plays a role in that. Cell adhesion, glycosaminoglycans actually kind of act like glue. They can bind cells together. Growth factor signals, I'm sure you guys know a lot about growth factors, but they can come from different things. They can come from hormones or proteins, but they are signals for really anti-aging within the body, producing collagen, elastin, so on and so forth. Immune cell function and collagen structure, I already spoke about that. It also maintains structural integrity and fluid balance. I spoke about that as well. And I sometimes give this analogy of what is turgidity, because that's a big component of glycosaminoglycans and what they do. For example, if you do not water a houseplant, what happens? It starts to slump over, and you can visually see it dying. For a lot of plants, I'll use basil as an example. I don't know if you have a basil plant in your house, but this is one plant that's a perfect analogy for turgidity. If I go out of town and I haven't watered it, and I come back and it's completely slumped over, if I give it water, I come back an hour later and it's like it had been watered the whole time. It completely bounces back and fills up with water. So that's what glycosaminoglycans are doing to our skin. So you can kind of visualize how important they are. And we can help really keep them strong, and a lot of them, with our technologies. Production of glycosaminoglycans, like hyaluronic acid, are reduced by loss of structural integrity, which decreases moisture retention. So, we just can't help it. As we age, it's just going to happen. Declining levels of hydrating molecules in the skin can lead to compromised skin structure and barrier function. So the takeaway: it's important to keep those glycosaminoglycans really strong, and a lot of them. Okay, melanocytes. So melanocytes, I'll go off the bullet points in just a moment, but I'll do a general breakdown of melanocytes. So melanocytes, they're found at the bottom of the epidermis, and these are our cells that produce pigment. And where they are located is really important to know. They're there for a reason. So we have the epidermis, then our main dermis, where our collagen, elastin, and glycosaminoglycans are. That's right underneath the epidermis, which is in specific papillary and reticular. So the epidermis, at the bottom of it, are the melanocytes, and they're there to protect our skin structure underneath, right? I'm sure it wasn't thought of for aging. I'm sure it was thought of as just overall function of the skin. But now we think of it as aging. Okay, they're there to protect our collagen, elastin, so we, age well. So that's why darker skin are lucky with the sun, because they have natural sunscreen really built in. Because melanocytes produce melanin, pigment, creates a barrier, and that pigment absorbs the UVA and the UVB rays from the sun, and it doesn't get down to the collagen and elastin, right? So that's why you can look at someone who's maybe African or Indian or any, skin type 4 and above, and when they're 50, they look really good most of the time because of that. For someone like myself, being a skin type 2, my melanocytes serve a function of, I go out in the sun and I get maybe like a little bit too much sun or sunburn. It stimulates the melanocytes to produce pigment. Therefore, we get a tan, which is not good, because what happens is now we have a tan. Now we're a little bit more protected from the sun. We weren't beforehand. So it really starts to break down the structure of our skin. But I'm probably going into too much detail of sun because I actually have a slide of that. Okay, so let me back up. So now let's look at everything what the melanocytes do and then how they change as we age. Okay, so these bullets. The epidermis thins while the number of layers remains unchanged. So we get pretty much thinning of skin. Basal cell layer proliferation. The basal cell is also in the epidermis. Basal cell layer proliferation reduces, so it's not producing as much keratinocytes. Those are our skin cells that we can actually visually see. And we usually have about 15 to 30 dead skin layers on top of that. Okay, so causing thinner skin and the contact surface area between the dermis and the epidermis to decrease. So again, thinning. This results in a smaller exchange surface for nutrition supply to the epidermis and further weakened ability of basal cell proliferation. So what happens there, what this really means, is we dramatically start to get a change in the texture of our skin as well as thinning of the skin. Melanocytes are shown to affect keratinocyte function. So again, those are the cells that we can visually see. They're the main cells in our epidermis, and causes age associated with epidermal atrophy. The number of melanocytes decrease while the remaining melanocytes increase in size. Okay, so this is a big problem. So melanocytes, as we age, they decrease, the number of them that we have. And one way I can really point this out, actually I have two ways. One is gray hair. We start to lose the melanin production in hair. So we start to get gray hair. It's doing the exact same thing to our skin. It's just not as apparent, right? Gray hair is very apparent. In our skin, it's not. However, think back to like when you were a teenager and you would go in the sun, and think of like your legs. Would your legs get, even if you're a light skin type, would your legs typically get a suntan? Typically, unless you're a skin type 1. Now think if you're around my age, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, now think about getting in the sun, which I hope you don't anyways. It's almost impossible to get a suntan on my legs now. It's because the decrease in number of melanocytes that I have. So that's two ways of kind of going, oh yeah, that's a problem because we're not as protected from the sun. Therefore, aging is going to speed up. Now, another thing that's important to think of are the size of our melanocytes. They grow. Where is that a problem? When we start to see all of the hyperpigmentation that we don't want, right? It's the solar lentigo that we start to get, and that also adds to, of course, the look of aging. Okay, aging skin looks thinner, paler. Sometimes it can even get to the point of translucent. Lentigenes, solar lentigo, will appear in sun-exposed areas. The number of melanocytes in both sun-exposed and unexposed skin decreases by 8 to 20% per decade after the age of 30. So there's that example. We actually have the percentage. Okay, so that's melanocyte. Now I'm going to pass it on to Aaliyah.
All right, we're back to talk about collagen elastin. As Kara mentioned, this is really probably the main thing that we think about when talking about aging, whether intrinsically or extrinsically. So collagen and elastin, of course, is like the building blocks of our skin, really provides the thickness, the youthful appearance. And the difference between the two, collagen really provides strength and rigidity to our skin, where elastin provides flexibility and the ability for your skin to bounce back. So two different purposes, but both very important. So as we age, collagen fibers create or this happens, I guess, anyway. Collagen fibers create the infrastructure for elastin and hyaluronic acid, which are responsible for skin's elasticity and hydration, as you just learned, or you were reminded about glycosaminoglycans. So collagen, elastin, and the GAGs are all very interconnected with each other, as well as blood vessels, actually, which Kara will talk about shortly. They all really rely on each other, which is really, really cool. Collagen makes up about 30 to 40% of proteins in the human body. There are over, I believe, close to 30, about 28 different collagen types in our body, right? Our whole body is made up of collagen and our organs and whatnot. We're talking about the dermis here, though, and that is type 1. Type 1 collagen is most prevalent, but there is also type 3. So also fibroblast cells become less active. So starting in our 20s, which is really, really unfair, I think, and collagen production declines by about 1 to 1.5% per year. So not only are we creating less collagen, right? Those fibroblast cells are secreting less collagen and elastin. Those collagen and elastin fibers also become thinner and looser as we age. So if you've been through one of our trainings, I'm sure you have, and we've talked about, ST or VFR, and we've talked about how the intermolecular crosslinks of collagen becomes stretched out, and how the heat of the technology breaks apart the connections. They come back together, and then they're closer together so that our skin is thicker and has better bounce back. So that's how that is helping. There is also an enzyme that breaks down proteins such as collagen. So MMP is for short. So during chronological aging, the same MMP, so that same enzyme that is upregulated acutely in response to UV radiation gradually increases. So of course, we all know, and Kara will talk about, the sun increases, collagen and elastin breakdown, but this enzyme is already there and is already breaking down collagen and elastin naturally. Can't remember if I'm next or, oh, I am next. I'll stay here. Alrighty, so this is a photo of the epidermis. And as Kara mentioned, the basal layer is the deepest layer, and this is where all living cells are generated for the rest of the epidermis. So they're generated there, there's stem cells in that layer, so a lot of life going on. And then gradually those cells move up through the epidermis. Once it reaches the stratum granulosum, which is towards the top, our cells start to die there. The cell actually loses its nucleus and again begins to die. It eventually reaches the stratum corneum, and that is dead skin cells. As Kara mentioned, it's 15 to 30 layers thick. And this, it does act as a barrier to protect our skin, but we also have something called cellular turnover. So it's actually the natural process of shedding dead skin cells to replace existing skin cells with younger, healthy cells. So of course, this process is also slowing down as we age naturally. So for children, babies and children, cell turnover rate is 14 days. So this is one of the reasons why children and babies have beautiful, thick, healthy skin, the skin that we all want. Their cells are turning over very quickly. Versus in our 20s, it decreases to 24 to 30 days. And then in our 40s to 60s, it's 45 to 60 days. And then even as we age further, it's extending potentially all the way out to 90 days. So our body or our skin is hanging on to those dead skin cells for longer and longer. This really leads to dull skin, dry skin, more apparent fine lines and wrinkles, just more visible aging signs. And I've heard a lot of, 40 to 60 plus year old women really talking about how they've lost the glow in their skin that they once used to have. And this is one of the biggest reasons why, right? We have more dead skin cells hanging on for longer. We're just going to have a more dull appearance compared to when we were really young. So of course, this is why retinol is so great. It's helping with that cell turnover rate, and some mechanical exfoliation as well, like Pristine and Prime really help to slough off some of those dead keratinocytes. Okay. Oh, I'm next again. Yay. So genetics, of course, does play a part in aging, right? Genetics determines our Fitzpatrick type, which really affects how we age. And there have been studies that show that there is up to a 57% chance of someone inheriting wrinkle depth from their parents, as well as lentogens, so solar or hyperpigmentation, 41%, sun damage, 60%, and wrinkles, 55%. So there definitely, there's some truth to that for sure. But if I am, preventative in my aging, I'm using medical grade products, I'm stimulating collagen every single year, and say my mom isn't, she is, but say she isn't, obviously our aging is going to look a lot different. So while genetics does play a part and is a piece of the puzzle, really our lifestyle and extrinsic aging plays the biggest part, which I think we're jumping into next. Oh, never mind, soon. But Kara's gonna jump on now.
Okay. Okay, last one, and then we're going to go into extrinsic, which I think the most valuable. All right, so vascular. I talk a lot about this one. First, I'll just say, what does vascular do for our skin? Blood flow, microcirculation to our tissue is always going to bring health to our skin. So it's so important. That's why we are really lucky that we have a lot of vacuums on a lot of our technologies, because it does just that. It brings microcirculation to the tissue, therefore bringing health. And what do I mean by health? It means we are bringing nutrients and oxygen to the tissue, and that just makes the skin healthy. However, now when we age, so blood vessels in the skin provides cells with nutrients and oxygen. Sorry, I just said that. Collagen is produced around capillaries. Big one, right? Because blood is life. So the more blood that we have in our tissue, the healthier it's going to be for those fibroblast cells to stay active and to help produce that collagen. This suggests that capillaries may play a role in inducing collagen production and by fibroblasts. Capillaries support skin elasticity by playing the role of a pillar. Let me move myself. Aging skin becomes more, oh, I don't know what I just did. There we go. Aging skin becomes more avascular, causing a paler appearance. So avascular means the lack of blood. For example, the epidermis is avascular. So if you cut yourself, I'm sure you have many of times, scraped yourself, cut yourself, and you don't bleed, still kind of hurts, but it doesn't bleed. That means we're just in the epidermis. It hasn't gotten any deeper. But as we age and we start to lose the amount of blood that we have to our skin, and we start to lose the amount of blood vessels, that's when it becomes a bit more avascular and can really start to create our skin to look a bit more pale. Blood flow to the skin decreases by 40% between the ages of 20 and 70 years old. That's really big. That's a really big percentage. It's really unfortunate. It's something that is going to happen. However, I don't think we talk about this enough, that many of our technologies create new blood vessels, create new capillaries. So it's not something that we have to live with. We don't have to live with that large percentage. There is something that we can do about it for sure. If we don't, though, this is what we're looking at. Reduction in the number and density of the blood vessels will ultimately happen. So blood vascular is so incredibly important when we start to think about anti-aging. But again, there's things that we can do to help stimulate those capillaries, those smaller capillaries to our skin, keep it really, really healthy and keep that blood flow going. There was another bullet. Where is it? I added one. Why isn't my computer working? There we go. Vessels become weaker, leading to bleeding and bruising. So I wanted to add this just as a reminder, when we're treating older skin types and we say, be careful of your vacuum level, there's a lot of truth behind that, right? It's not just because their skin is thinner, it's also because vessels just become weaker. So it's so much easier for them to break and for them to bleed and bruise and hopefully not become, a large hematoma. So that's what we always want to consider when you are treating someone and you start to see petechiae is the little red dots on the skin that you can actually visually see the broken capillaries that eventually, if you see that petechiae, that will be a bruise. So if you start to see that with any of our vacuum-based technologies, lower the vacuum. Some of them you can turn the vacuum off. But when we have the young, healthier skin, when I say young, I don't mean 20, it could be in our 40s or in our 50s or even in our 60s. And you're not seeing those visual signs. It looks like they have, thicker skin. It looks like they have really healthy blood flow. Then that's okay. But I just wanted to put that on as a reminder for safety. Okay, now we'll go into extrinsic. Yay, our most important part here. Again, I just want to do a reminder. I want you to think about this in your consultation process. This is also something to consider because we're going to be talking about skincare. Do you carry a skincare line? If not, start to consider it because one, it's going to make you really well-rounded as a med spa, as a, cosmetic practice, to be able to offer really everything that they need. But additionally, it's ensuring that they're doing the right thing to their skin day in and day out when they're not with you. You know the products that you prescribed them to use in the morning and to use at night. And it just kind of helps you sit back and go, oh, okay, everything I'm doing to their skin with all of the energy-based devices or anything else that you're using is going to make a huge impact because of what they're doing at home. So just something to consider. What is extrinsic aging? So causes of why we start to get premature aging, that's the thing. Free radicals, and we have a slide on all of these. Free radicals, UV exposure, hydration, alcohol, smoking, sleep and chronic stress, and diet. So those are our most important ones to consider when we think about anti-aging. Results, if we're not considering these things, is degradation of collagen, elastin fibers, coarse and dry skin, deep wrinkles, sallowness, that sunken look, discoloration to our skin or dyschromia, abnormal growth of tissue. So of course we can start to get even cancers, right, if we're not careful, and damage to DNA. So that's one of the big things we're going to be talking about is that damage to DNA, because the damage to DNA has led to all those bullet points right above it. Okay. First one is the sun. I'm going to talk about that photo in the upper right-hand corner in just a moment because I absolutely love it and it makes total sense and I'm so glad I found it. But we'll first talk about a couple of these bullets. Okay, so sun. What are the harmful effects of the sun? You guys probably know a lot of this, right? It really is our biggest culprit. And you know why? It's that next bullet. Sun exposure causes an estimated 90% of our skin's aging. 90%. So the sun is by far our worst enemy. However, we need it. Of course, we need vitamin D. So we can't be, vampires, but there's a big difference in getting some sun exposure for vitamin D with a good protective SPF or just going out bare skin. What symptoms do we see when we have damage from UV rays? Solar lentigo is probably the one that we absolutely know the best, the most apparent. But I think one that some people may not realize is also telangiectasias. When you look at someone with a lot of sun damage to their skin, it's not just sunspots. It's, if you look closely on some people, you may need to look closer. It's a lot of broken capillaries as well. Also poikiloderma, right? I have it. It's the redneck. She's a redneck. He's a redneck. And that is the truth, right? It's all vascular and that's all coming from sun damage. So this isn't intrinsic. This is something that I could have avoided, right? But I grew up in the 80s, so that's that. Loss of collagen, loss of elasticity and sagging skin, wrinkles and fine lines, and textural changes, which also include dry and dull skin. Now, why do we get these issues? So now let's look at this photo in the upper right-hand corner. We have two different types of rays. We have UVA and we have UVB. So what's the difference? Here it says UVA is aging and UVB is a sunburn, but that's not really completely true. Both create aging. But why does it say UVA is the aging rays? Is because UVA has a much longer wavelength, so it can actually penetrate through the epidermis all the way into our dermis. So that's the problem. That's where it starts to actually wreak havoc on our DNA. It starts to wreak havoc on everything that's important in our dermis, collagen, elastin, all of the things. Now, UVB doesn't have as long of a wavelength. It has a shorter wavelength. So it's not penetrating all the way into our dermis. It's staying in the epidermis, but that's still problematic, right? If we create sunburns, we know we've still created a major complication to our skin. And it does have a big role in epidermal changes too. So we really have two things to worry about and to consider. So why I want to talk about that is our next portion is how to prevent aging from sun exposure. So one is wear a high SPF. So 50 plus is what's considered high, but we also need to consider that it's covering both UVA and UVB. Ones with zinc are amazing because zinc is actually a vitamin that helps our skin. We'll talk about that when we get into, I think, diet. But it's super, super important that they're wearing the right type of sunscreen. It's covering both. That it's, all the things like sweat-proof, waterproof, if you're playing sports, things like that. Avoid sitting in a window for long periods of time. I think people forget about this. Like, let's say your office has a window right here, and you kind of don't think like, oh, I'm inside, so I'm protected. UVB cannot penetrate glass. So you are protected from UVB. You're not going to get typically a sunburn from sitting in a window. You can still, it can happen, but UVB doesn't penetrate through glass. However, UVA does. So think about that day in and day out. You're working in an office or you're, I don't know, sitting at home next to a window all day, and think about what it can actually do to your skin. So don't forget that. Ensure your face is, okay. Oh, I was going to say, I forgot to talk about driving. Ensure your face is protected while driving. I was talking about glass and I was like, wait, I forgot something. A lot of people don't think about this either, right? We will typically always, if we're a driver, some of us are passengers throughout our life. My grandma was a passenger throughout her entire life. My grandpa never let her drive. I think it was more chivalry. But if you're a passenger or driver, you're always going to unfortunately have more aging on that side. So I'm a driver, my left side is definitely going to show the most signs. So keep that in mind when you're driving. It's putting on that SPF every single morning when you wake up. Try to protect yourself when you're driving, especially me living in Las Vegas. I can feel it beating down on my skin. So I actually sometimes throw a t-shirt over my visor and it just hangs a little bit to the point where I can still see to drive, but I can feel that it's not beating down on my face, because day in and day out, that's going to have a huge consequence on me or on all of you. Wear sunglasses to protect the delicate skin around your eyes. I'm a culprit of this. I need to change. Sunglasses are not, not just to look cool, right? It's not just to see better when we're out and about. It actually protects our eyesight. So we have to think about that, but think about that delicate skin around our eyes and how much aging we get if we're not protecting it really well. Sunglasses, especially large brim sunglasses, are going to protect you a lot. Wear hats, long sleeves pants when you can. I get it. When it's really hot in the summer, wearing shorts and tank tops, it's definitely going to make the most sense. But when you can, even I play tennis. I even try when it's hot to wear the long sleeve cooling shirts. My tennis coach never ever shows her skin, even in August in Las Vegas. She wears pants and long sleeves because she's outside all day long, but they do make garments to where they can be protected. And I don't want this to sound like you have to tell your patients to completely change their entire lifestyle. Like, listen, in the summer, you can't show your skin. No, of course not. But it's when you're talking to them like, do you play sports? Yeah. Okay, please consider, just giving them that advice, especially when they're in the middle of a series. That's what's that's what's really important, right? They're getting these treatments where it's making their skin susceptible. Of course, we have technologies that don't make the skin susceptible to the sun, but we also have technologies that do make the skin susceptible to the sun. So when it's that case, yes, please try to wear long sleeves, long pants, and cover the areas that we've treated during the course. Hats are a big one, though. Try to wear hats as much as you can and avoid spending prolonged periods. Uh, avoid spending prolonged. I obviously made a mistake in this PowerPoint. What it's supposed to say is avoid spending prolonged periods outside in certain hours of the day, when is the sun the strongest and when can it really wreak havoc on our skin is between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. So, just keep that in mind personally. When you're out walking your dog, if it's at 8 a.m., you're definitely not as susceptible than you are at around noon. Okay, so sun. Now, Aaliyah.
Okay, I actually am also horrible about sunglasses, and that really inspired me to order some cute ones. So thank you, and start wearing them. Okay, so next we're going to talk about sleep and chronic stress. Of course, we can have stressful moments and days, but it's really chronic stress that really wreaks havoc on our skin. So first we'll talk about sleep, that is on the left, and then on the right is stress. So lack of sleep increases transepidermal water loss. So this is a measurement of how much water our skin or our epidermis really is losing. And we don't want to be losing water in our skin. That really affects the skin barrier function. And if our skin barrier is compromised, it really leads to infection, inflammation, and of course, aging symptoms. So we want a strong barrier and no transepidermal water loss. So when the body rests, so when we're sleeping, the skin regenerates through the elimination and replacement of dead cells, including skin and blood cells. So that cell turnover rate that I talked about earlier, this is really happening while we sleep. So it's really important that we get adequate sleep so that this process can happen properly. I actually saw a TikTok a while ago, and a girl was talking about wearing makeup to bed, which of course is a huge extrinsic aging factor. There's probably 10 million that we could talk about, but she understood why she couldn't, but she said, how do my cells know that it's nighttime? And it's not that our skin cells know that it's night. It's just that most people sleep at night, and that is when our cells are regenerating. So I thought it was funny. Sleep also lowers levels of the stress hormone cortisol, which causes free radical damage to the skin. So damages our cells and our DNA. Lack of sleep also leads to dehydration, sallow complexion, acne, and redness. Less sleep affects our skin's pH levels, which then lowers the moisture levels. And not only lack of sleep ages us, but so does how we sleep, unfortunately. So side and stomach sleepers, they have more wrinkles, essentially. And their wrinkles, as that picture shows, they are vertical wrinkles, which do not mimic any type of muscle movement, right? No muscles move vertically this way. So that's really a big sign that someone is a side sleeper or a stomach sleeper, as well as a significant amount of volume loss on one side compared to the other. So you can just educate your patients about that. You can build collagen in that area, but if they are repetitively sleeping in that area and making those wrinkles deeper and deeper, it's kind of hard to treat. It's hard to control how we sleep at night, of course, but there are a lot of anti-aging pillows nowadays, so that when you do sleep on your side, it's not completely smushing your skin in. So there's options out there. So over to stress, this causes cortisol secretion from the adrenal glands, so that's stress hormone. And our skin does have receptors for that hormone, and their activation causes various changes to our skin, like increased inflammation, impaired wound healing, which is huge with collagen and elastin production, right? More oil and sebum production, which will lead to acne, no doubt, and then impaired resistance to infection. Kind of hopping back over to sleep, I forgot to mention, there are actually studies that show that women need more sleep than men, only really due to the fact that we juggle more usually during the day, we multitask more, we have more on our brain, emotionally and mentally. So it's recommended that we get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. In men, I believe it's 6 to 8 hours. So just tell your significant other tonight you need more sleep, and it's science. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Awesome. All right, smoking. We know, I'm sure all of us know that this is a huge, huge, huge external aging factor, right? We know how horrible it is for our skin. So nicotine changes the structure and function of fibroblast cells. It impairs collagen formation. So not only are we already losing collagen, smoking is impairing that collagen formation already. Tobacco smoke causes oxidative stress in fibroblast cells and increase that enzyme, the MMP enzyme that breaks down collagen and elastin. A dull and pale complexion with a gray-blue hue is definitely common. This is due to restricted blood flow to the skin caused by narrowing of vessels. This deprives the skin of oxygen and other nutrients. Kara mentioned how important blood and microcirculation is to the skin, and this is really decreasing that. It increases the production of free radicals and lowers levels of vitamin A in the skin. And vitamin A helps to speed up healing, supports the skin's immune system, and really contributes to moisture levels as well. So very important to have. The chemicals in cigarette smoke increase that trans epidermal water loss, which again affects the skin barrier, and degeneration of collagen and elastic fibers. It also promotes melanin production. So it is literally affecting every single function within our skin, the dermis, the epidermis, vessels, all of it. So as Kara has mentioned, it's just having a conversation with these patients. If, you do have a smoker that comes in and they're interested in treatments, of course, they can have treatments done. It's just about managing expectations, maybe educating them a bit, maybe if they don't know about what exactly is happening to their skin. I know this is a very hard one to stop, but just making sure their expectations are managed. I let them know their results may not be the best because of this. I would sell them, more in a package than less, and they may need more frequent maintenance as well. So again, just knowing their lifestyle and having appropriate conversations. Alcohol, all the fun things in life I feel like are not good for us. So alcohol is a diuretic, and this means that the body loses more water and salt than usual. This leads to dehydration. It's a side effect of alcohol, which leads to changes in the skin. So dry skin and lips, decreased elasticity, which leads to wrinkles and sagging, texture and enlarged pores, and then sunken eyes. Alcohol is also an inflammatory, so it causes flushing. Alcohol is a vasodilator, increasing blood flow above normal levels and causing rosacea to worsen. So that is a huge sign if someone has rosacea. They'll talk about how when they have a glass of wine, their skin is really, really flush and really red. And nearly 50% or nearly half of Northeastern Asians have a risk of flushing due to mutation of an enzyme that breaks down alcohol. That's something new I learned today. High in sugar. Alcohol typically is very high in sugar, unfortunately. This disrupts sleep, which we now know sleep is really important for skin aging. It leads aging, affects both internally and externally. And then high sugar absorption can lead to glycation as well. And Kara will actually go over what glycation is on the next slide. Also, it is an endocrine disruptor, which means it affects our hormones. So alcohol can trigger hormones that may lead to increased oil production that can cause acne and enlarged pores. So if your idea of a fun night includes a glass of champagne, like it does for me, it's okay. Again, all in moderation. Just really knowing how much alcohol your patients are drinking daily or weekly. And this is not only important to know for, facial treatments, but huge to know for body contouring as well. So definitely know that info. And she's coming back. I think. I
Yeah.
think I'd never seen this PowerPoint before. I just forgot to order.
I know. It takes me a second, but it's harder to bounce back and forth. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I wanted to, before I go into the next slides, oh wait, hold on, let me pin myself. Oh no, I am, okay. So one thing that I get a lot of calls about in the clinical department is rosacea. And most of the time the rosacea clears up beautifully, but there's some cases that it does not. And my number one question is, do they drink alcohol? And they say yes, and I can't get her or him to stop. Here's what, like Aaliyah was saying, managing expectations. That's really big. When it comes to rosacea clients or clients that just have really bad telangiectasias, alcohol is always going to increase your blood flow above normal levels and create that to become worse. So I would say, be very careful if someone says, I drink 3-4 glasses of whatever per night and I'm not going to stop, and they have rosacea. You're probably not going to have a happy client, because you're going to work and work and work on her, him. You can try, of course you can try. And if they want to try, great. But them knowing this may not clear, and being really honest about that. That's a big one. Okay, we'll go into the next. Something else I was going to say here, but I can't remember now. Okay, I can't remember. Hydration. They haven't done a lot of studies on hydration and skin, which is shocking to me, but we all know. We all know how important water is to the body, therefore how important it is to our largest organ, the skin. Now, there's a difference between dehydrated skin and dry skin. So dehydrated skin lacks water, dry skin lacks sebum. So if they're a dry skin type, it's not a water problem, it's a sebum problem. But dry skin also can be dehydrated skin. So it's incredibly important for your patients to be hydrated, not only for their own benefit, which it's going to be a huge benefit, but it's for you in doing these treatments, because most all of our technology is attracted to water. Laser is attracted to water. IPL is attracted to water. Radio frequency is highly attracted to water. So your results and your benefit is going to be a hydrated patient. Also, when they start to go up in that water intake, their skin's going to look a whole lot better than it did, and they're already going to be happy, which is great. So there's a pinch test. If you take typically here on your arm and pinch it, and if it bounces back within a couple seconds, you're hydrated. You're considered hydrated. If it does not, you're considered dehydrated. So if you're really looking at your patient like, oh, you've been promising me you're drinking a lot of water, but your results are lacking, you can always try a pinch test. You can also look at their lips if they're really dry and cracked. Now, sometimes they just have a condition on their lips to create that dryness and cracking, but that is the first sign of dehydration, is dry, cracked lips. So if you see that, do a pinch test and see that, maybe they are not drinking as much water as they're telling you. Okay, so what benefits does water have on the skin? Can help increase blood flow to the skin. We already know how important this is. Proper hydration can help plump and strengthen skin elasticity. And remember those glycosaminoglycans. Once they see that water, they grab onto it and they hold it 1,000 times its weight, and it just helps them, right? Dry and dull skin becomes less prominent, helps with sunken eyes, dark circles, and some types of under eye bags. It can help decrease those. Flushes toxins, therefore it can help prevent acne, because we are flushing toxins from the body. How much water should I drink? So that is a big question. There are professional water calculators. You can even Google it, water calculator, to get your exact amount of water you should be drinking, because it asks really good questions. It asks where you live. So your climate's going to vary and how much water you're losing, right? I'm in the desert, so I lose more water. Are you mildly active? Are you moderately active? Are you highly active? Are you male or female? And then what your body mass index is, your height and your weight. And it really narrows down how much water they should be drinking. So I do recommend doing that, just because it's going to vary so much if they're highly active male in the desert compared to something that's opposite of that. Or to make it really simple, the rule of thumb is typically half of your body weight in ounces. So just take your body weight, divide it by 2. That's how many ounces you should be drinking per day. Water makes up approximately 64% of our skin. So we need it. It's important. The more we drink, of course, the better our skin is going to look. Okay. Free radicals. I learned a lot today with free radicals. What are free radicals? They're an uncharged molecule. They're highly reactive and short-lived, and boy, do they do damage. So why are free radicals damaging to the skin? Free radicals can damage the very DNA of your skin cells. So they just come in, and DNA is so important, and we do not want to disrupt DNA. And that's what they do. And that's what really, really creates premature aging. And it's something we don't think about, right? We think about the sun. If you're good about the sun, you think about the sun because you feel it, you see it. With alcohol, if you're good about it and you moderate it, it's easy because we know what it's doing to our body. We can see it, we can drink it. With free radicals, it's hard because free radicals we can't see, and they don't just come from pollutants. A lot of times we think, oh, free radicals are pollutants. Yes, they are part of pollutants and makes it worse with pollutants, but our body produces free radicals when we metabolize food. We have free radicals in food. We have free radicals in water. We have free radicals everywhere. So keep this in mind because I'm going to give you some things to consider for your patients. Due to their unstable nature, they can cause a lot of damage to the skin. Sorry, hold on, my camera's in the way, so I can't read this. Damage to the skin while they are seeking electrons to make them whole. So going back to the first point, what are free radicals? They're uncharged molecules, meaning they need another electron to make them whole. So they're highly charged, and they're looking for something, right? That's the problem of them. So they're seeking, and free radicals try to bond to other atoms and molecules. So they try to bond to our skin cells, and this process leads to oxidative stress that can cause damage to the DNA. Now we're saying it's creating oxidative stress. What is that? Oxidative stress weakens living cells and tissue. So I'm going to give you an example of this. What does oxidative stress do? This is, I think, a good visual. What happens when you cut an avocado and you leave it laying on the counter for a day, or an apple and you cut it up and you leave it on the counter for the day? It starts to die, right? You can visually see it dying. You can see the brown spots on it. That's oxidative stress to that fruit. Now, if you cut an apple and then you squeeze lemon juice or lime juice or orange juice, something acidic, all over it, and you leave it for a day, usually it's protected. I want you to keep that in mind, because when we start to talk about vitamins and antioxidants will stop the oxidative stress, or at least slow it down. That's what the acidity, the vitamins in the citric acid are doing to the apple. It's stopping oxidative stress. Good visual. Now picture your skin as the apple. It's messed up. How to avoid free radicals. So incorporate antioxidants in skincare and in food. This is really important. We are already probably eating, hopefully, and hopefully your patients are eating fruits and vegetables and fish and eggs and things like this in their diet, where they're already getting antioxidants. If they're not, again, another important conversation. Obviously, this webinar is very long. This conversation is not going to happen this long with a patient, but just having some bullet points, right? Are you eating, like, what's your diet like? I want to make sure that you're getting enough antioxidants in your diet. Additionally, what are you using on your skin day and night? If they're not using an antioxidant, that is a big problem. So it shouldn't just come from food. It should also come from skincare, because that's going to really protect the skin the most, but it also shouldn't come from just skincare. It should also come internally from food. So it really should be a combination. Now, a lot of people think, I'll just wear my antioxidant during the day, right? Because I'm outside and pollutants, I'm in airplanes, I'm in buildings, I'm around cars, whatever. However, remember, free radicals are everywhere. They're right around you right now. So it's also really smart to wear an antioxidant at night. So it could be a highly moisturizing antioxidant at night. So you're also getting that like moisture that you need for your skincare at night. Or it could be your antioxidant and then you put your nighttime cream over it. But they really should be wearing it morning and night and really eating the right foods. Now, when we talk about right foods or what kind of antioxidant should you be using or looking for in your skincare? So vitamin C is a huge one. I think I probably already explained that with the citric acid that we're putting on the apple. But vitamin C is a huge one to look for in skincare. Niacinamide is a great antioxidant. Green tea is a great antioxidant, either in skincare or drinking it. And vitamin E is incredibly healing for the skin, but it's also an antioxidant. So it actually serves two purposes. But definitely, if you're not already carrying a skincare line or you yourself are not wearing an antioxidant, look into a really good one, because it'll do wonders to your skin. You may not see it right away. You may not see it in a year, but you will start noticing, wow, I'm glad I started using this 5-10 years from now. They did a study. Oh, which slide was I going to talk about this? Was it sun? I can't remember. I'm so sorry. They did a study on twins, 61-year-old twins. And it was either the twin didn't wear sunscreen. No, I think it was the twin didn't wear antioxidant type skincare, and the other twin did. And the one twin looked, from a study, right, like a group of people guessing their age, the one twin looked 11 point something years older than the other. So that is how important these antioxidants are. Okay, I think this is the last one. Yeah, diet. So now we will talk about more, foods that are creating complications internally, but then that in turn, I think just pairs well with what we were just talking about, right? The vitamins that we should be seeking to get on a daily basis. So first we'll start with, what effects does salt have on our skin? I think we kind of talked about this a bit when it came to alcohol too, like dehydrating the skin. But sodium is a vital nutrient. We need it, right? We need a lot of salt in our body. It's a vital nutrient for our skin and body, but too much can lead to consequences, of course. Unwanted puffiness, potential under eye bags, and dry skin. So keep that in mind. High salt diet when you're speaking to them, not going to be great. Plus, it's going to dehydrate them, and what you're wanting is hydrated skin. So it's really going against you. What effects does sugar have on our skin? Causes glycation. Okay, so what is glycation? Glycation, it's a sugar that's attached to a protein. When we have really high sugar diets, and I don't want you guys to think of like fruit. Fruit is really high in sugar, but it's kind of balanced because of all the amazing vitamins that we get from fruit. So I want you to think of, they are eating a lot of cake and a lot of cookies at night, and they just can't stop. That's what's going to help. That's what's going to turn to glycation. Now, glycation is a natural process in the body. This is something that we can't stop. It's always going to happen. However, when we get premature aging, it's when we have too high of a sugar diet, and then we create unwanted glycation. So glycation, sugar attached to a protein, the sugar molecules adhere to, because collagen and fiber, they're a protein. So the sugar molecules adhere to the collagen, elastin, and they start to really break them down. They start to make collagen really rigid. So it's destroying our collagen pretty much if we have a really, really, really high sugar diet. So make sure they know that sugar is going to create issues. Also causes inflammation. Of course, we don't want inflammation in our skin, and flare-ups of multiple things that can happen, right? And we're not even talking about like eczema and psoriasis and all the skin conditions that they could potentially have. And because it causes inflammation, if you have a patient that has acne, this can cause the acne to become worse. So make sure that they know all of these key points with these two not so great ingredients. Okay, what effects do vitamins have on our skins? Now we'll talk about the positive. Vitamin A. So I'll just list off like the most common vitamins. Vitamin A is an antioxidant, so good for skincare, but good to eat. Increases the repair rate and cell production. So it's just speeding everything up in our body that slows down as we age. There's a type of vitamin A, which is retinol. Really great to use on the skin for skin cell turnover. Not great for everyone, of course. If they're older with really thin skin, retinol is probably not the best. Severely dry skin, probably not the best. But for most of us, we really should be on some type of retinol throughout our life. Now, I get it. They can't be on it through a course of like energy-based device treatments, but they can be on it in between their maintenance sessions, between their monthly sessions when they're coming in to see you monthly. They can be on it for 2 weeks, get off of it for 2 weeks, get their treatment done, so on and so forth. So they can bounce on and off of it. Vitamin C is huge for a lot of reasons. So it's an antioxidant. We need that, right? We don't want oxidative stress, prevents damage to cells, and produces collagen. So when we have no collagen, we end up with a condition called scurvy, where you cannot heal yourself because the body is not producing collagen. That's how important vitamin C is to collagen production. So making sure that, you know, you're keeping that in mind. And there's a lot of foods with these vitamins and you're probably getting enough. If not, maybe they can do a supplement instead. Vitamin E is also an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. It protects skin cells and it heals. We probably already know that, right? When we think of vitamin E, we think of healing. So really good for our skin, but also internally, because anything we're putting in our mouths is going to show on our skin. I can promise you that. Biotin reduces cell death. Iron, essential for collagen health. Really almost just as essential as vitamin C. And then zinc is really good for protecting us from harmful UV. And what does it say after that? Shoot, it's too low. Oh, and it also helps to heal skin. So those are all the vitamins that we should be, not all of them, there's a lot more too. There's like vitamin B12 and vitamin B, blah, 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 and vitamin D and all, you know, all the vitamins. They're of course good, but these are the ones that are primarily like your antioxidants, your healing, your collagen proliferation vitamins that we should be intaking as well as putting on morning and night. Okay, so I think that was our last slide. Yeah. Any questions? You guys can always message us for any questions that you may have, especially, you know, as you're doing consultations with patients, questions may come up. So you can always reach out to us. Here's all of our information, our Instagram, our Facebook, our phone number, our website, our email address. You can always email us here. So kind of nice just to take a screenshot of that if you don't already have this information. And we're always here to answer any questions that may come up. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We really hope this is helpful. One, just understanding overall aging, and then two, really understanding what we can do to help prevent it and really maintain results for your patients that are spending good money with you, right? And want to be happy. And we want you to keep every patient for life. And this hopefully will really help do that. Aaliyah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, that was fun. Always.
All right, we'll see you guys soon on the next one. Couple weeks.